Word on Health, the report with its finger on the pulse of popular medicine, with Paul Pennington. Word on Health, for your very best of health. Every year, organisations across the world join forces with one single goal: to prevent death by suicide. Here in the UK, over the past decade, suicide prevention charities have made a significant impact in expanding innovative access across digital crisis and community touchpoints, influenced public policy and digital safety reforms, enhanced awareness and trained communities to intervene effectively, and saved lives directly through real-time interventions and supportive environments. One of these incredible organisations is James's Place. Jane Boland is their clinical lead.
James's Place, like many suicide prevention organisations, was founded by the family of somebody who died by suicide, a lady called Claire Milford Haven and her ex-husband, Nick Wentworth Stanley, who were the parents of a young man called James, who took his own life when he was 21 years old and a student. And like many families, they wanted to do something in James's name, but mostly they wanted to do something so that other parents wouldn't go through what they had gone through. Claire's mission was always to get to a stage where the charity would be able to provide a space where men like James would have very fast access to the right help when they were in a suicidal crisis, because James did ask for help, but the help didn't come to him. So we opened our centre in Liverpool in 2018, and I was around for that. I developed the service. We opened our next centre in London in the middle of the pandemic. We opened our third centre in Newcastle, and we're on the cusp of opening our fourth centre in Birmingham. Our big aspiration would be that no man in the United Kingdom is more than an hour and a half away from the support that James's Place can offer. That's our goal. We're a charity. We're constantly fundraising and trying to work with lots of different people to try and make that goal happen. Since we started, we know that we have actively supported 4,000 men who have come to us and had support from one of our three services. So we've gone from nothing to 4,000 in 7 years.
James's Place focus is specifically men, and with 3/4 of the deaths attributed to suicide being male, there's clearly a need for suicide prevention therapy specifically for them. Talk me through your approach.
I've worked in suicide prevention as a therapist and as a mental health professional for a long time. And when I heard the aspirations of James's Place, I was very excited about the idea that a suicidal crisis in itself was something that we would treat. Suicide is not necessarily accompanied by a mental health problem, but for the most part, in terms of my career of 25 odd years in the health service, suicide prevention has been delivered by mental health services. It's been seen as kind of part and parcel of mental health. And I think certainly for the men who attempt suicide and certainly the men who come to James's Place, we see that the vast majority of those men have never accessed and haven't needed to access any sort of mental health support, because their suicidal crisis is very much about a set of social circumstances and an overwhelming level of distress. It's not about somebody who's so mentally ill that they're not in their right mind. It's a very different approach. And I think that our understanding of why men get to a suicidal crisis point was part of why we knew we had to deliver a very specific therapy that would work for men in an environment that we asked men what they liked. We knew we had to have a targeted approach to a very specific group of people, helping people find an alternative solution to the problems that they're facing. So the person in a suicidal crisis has decided almost that their own death by suicide is the solution to these set of problems. And what we do in our therapy is help them to generate some alternative solutions. What we've been able to show through our work is that taking that very pragmatic problem-solving approach, talking somebody through the situation is effective. We've had our service independently evaluated. So people who are much cleverer and much more academic than me have looked at our result and have looked at what men have said about the treatment and have come up with flash words like statistically significant and clinically significant. But the bottom line is men who participate and get the chance to have our treatment come in feeling very distressed and suicidal and leave feeling loads better and not suicidal.
In lay terms, how would you describe the James's Place therapy model?
I think of it as like a recipe. So every James's Place has got these big ingredients. One is that the environment that we see the men in is really lovely. It's not like a doctor's office or a clinic that you go to with the NHS. They're very homely and the environment itself is very comfortable. 80% of the guys who come to us are from the group of men who don't traditionally access services very well. And I think that's because we've made it really accessible. We work really hard to engage men. They're referred to us on Monday at James's Place. We might be talking to them on Monday afternoon saying, we've got an appointment time for you tomorrow. Let's get you in and let's get you down to see somebody. And I think that being able to do that and engage people right at the very beginning of their journey into our service is really important. That's a key ingredient. The people who you'll work with are specifically trained to work in suicide prevention. So everybody from the first person you speak to on the phone to the therapist was really confident about working with people who are in a suicidal crisis and are properly trained. If we're not the right person for you, or if we need you to get something else after you've had help from us, we've got really good pathways with other organisations. So we'll get you the help you need, even if we're not the right people to do it. And then the final part of the recipe is that the way that we deliver our therapy is really different. Our intervention is called Lay Your Cards on the Table. And that's because we do literally use a set of cards which help the men to identify what's happening, to identify what they're thinking and what they're feeling, what they're doing. And by putting those words literally on a table, because we'll have a table in all of our therapy rooms, the men can take a look at all these words, and what the therapist will help them to do is to make sense of it. So a man might say, well, nobody cares about me. Nobody would care if I live or die. But they'll also say, I'm not talking to my friends and family, and I've not been out of the house since 2 months ago. So one of the things that a therapist can say is, well, how can people help you if you're not talking to them? How can we help you do that? So it all sounds very straightforward once you can get it all out of your head and once you can see it in front of you and start making sense of it. That is the final part of the recipe, is that our therapists use our intervention to help the man to understand how he got into a suicidal crisis, to work out perhaps what led up to it, what he can do to make the current situation better, how he can stop it happening again, and then what he might need to be able to get on with the rest of his life.
Without breaching patient confidentiality, are there any particular patient stories that come to mind?
I'm trying to think. It's hard because I've worked with so many people to think of individuals, but there have been people who have come in and I've thought, I don't know that I'll be able to get them through this. And you can see that big change, certainly within 2 or 3 sessions and using the cards, because they're such a powerful tool that we get to use. But I think importantly, they're powerful because the men do the thinking. They generate the solutions themselves. It's not me as a therapist saying, if you do this, this, and this, you'll get better. It's them with my help saying, well, perhaps if I tried this, I'd feel better. And maybe if I stop doing that, I'll feel better. And I think that's sort of quite an important way about how we work. As well as being clinical lead of James's Place, I also live in Liverpool. I'm what's called a match going red. So I go along to the football, and I've been lucky in that I know that some of the men who've come to James's Place are also men that I see at a football game on a Saturday or a Wednesday. And, you know, what I have been told by those men and by their friends and by their family is that they know that without James's Place, this person might not be here. And that story is told to every single therapist who works at James's Place at least a couple of times a week. If I hadn't found you, I don't know what I would have done. If my son hadn't found you. You know, there are other services around that are doing really great work as well. They don't do the same as James's Place. They all tend to be sort of charities that are set up by people who've been bereaved, recognising that a suicidal crisis is different from a mental health crisis and that a bespoke approach to it is what's needed. The challenge is to deliver a service as opposed to awareness. And it's incredibly important to raise awareness, but ultimately people need to have support and help available to them. And there's loads of organisations, including ours, who are doing their best to try and get that support.
Stigma can often prevent men from reaching out for help. What steps do you take to overcome that?
The biggest thing that we do is make it really easy to access help. So as soon as your referral pings onto our computer, it's been worked on straight away. And if it's coming in on a Monday morning, somebody will be contacting you on Monday afternoon pretty much and saying, this is what's going on. Can you come in and see us tomorrow and can we get this started? And I think that level of engagement that starts with the first person that you'll talk to in any of our centres is our clinical admin assistant. And they are amazing men and women with the patience of saints who will engage and talk to you and make you feel safe and make you feel that James's Place can help you. So I think that's the first thing. Second thing is, nobody will see you walk into James's Place and think that you're going into anywhere other than probably quite a nice house. It's not on the main road. It's all quite discreet. There's no big signs outside of the front, so nobody will particularly know what you're up to. So that can be helpful. You'll be treated with respect and kindness, and I think that you'll be helped to see that what's happening to you is you're not on your own. It's happening to a lot of people. You'll meet other men who it's happening to, maybe sort of bump into them in the waiting room and stuff. So I think that will probably make you feel better. And then on our communications channels like Instagram and Facebook, we do give information on there about what it's like to come to James's Place and what the therapists are like when you get them. So I think our way of reducing the stigma for men to come and meet us is to just let you know what we're like and that we're very nice people and we want to help you. I think the larger issue about stigma is for people to start having straightforward and honest conversations about suicide and acknowledge that it happens, that it's not a sign of weakness to be feeling suicidal, that it's in many cases, when I've sat down with fellas and they put those cards out on the table, I've wanted to give them a big hug and say, my God, I'm not surprised you're feeling like that if this is all that's going on in your head. So be kind to yourself and just put that thought aside that everybody would be better off without you and think that actually I deserve some help and I deserve to feel better than this. And there are people who care enough to help me.
And finally, Jane, for anyone listening that might suspect someone in their life may be in crisis right now, what should they do?
I do get asked this all the time, and I don't want to in any way underplay how difficult it is to say to somebody that you love or that you care about, look, I'm worried about you. It's really difficult. But there are no secret signs that somebody's in a crisis. There are no sort of secret signs that somebody's going to kill themselves. The only way that you will know is if you ask them. Ask them in a straightforward way. I'm worried about you. I'm worried that you might be thinking about killing yourself. Don't say, I'm worried about you. Are you thinking of doing something silly? Be straightforward. I'm worried that you might be thinking about killing yourself. Is that what's happening right now? And they'll either say, yeah, I am feeling terrible, but no, I'm not like that. And then you have that conversation. And if they say, yes, you know what, I am, then you'll be able to say, okay, deep breath. What we're going to do next. How can I help you to get the help you need? And if you are able to, it's good to have a couple of things in your back pocket, like information about local resources, information about what could help. There's a thing called the Hub of Hope, which is an app which has all sorts of advice and stuff about things that are available to you. And it's geographical. So if you put your location in it, it'll say what's close to you. And just being straight and direct and reassuring the person that you're willing to help and that what you're willing to do is you're willing to get them to the next person who's going to be the person who can do the proper stuff. So it might be that you say, should we call your GP and sort out an appointment? Or should we call 111? Or should we go to A&E? Or it might be, should we just go for a walk around the park and tell me how you've got to this place and what can we do next? But the best advice is to just try and be as straightforward as you can. Don't beat around the bush. You want to know if it's a suicidal crisis. And if it is, then you can work with that person to do something about it.
My grateful thanks to Jane Boland from James's Place. To reach through to the charity, go to jamesplace.org.uk. That's jamesplace.org.uk. Or you can find a link on the links page of the wordonhealth.com website. That's wordonhealth.com. Word on Health. On air and online 52 weeks of the year with Paul Pennington. Word on Health. Your personal prescription for your very best of health.